The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show, Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jacky Lambert, and we are ready to bring you some feel good vibes this morning. Our feel good topic of the day is a Bermudian success story. We'll be talking to Danté Cooper a little bit later on in the show, and our feel good vibe of the day is joke time with Jacky. So if you want to get your morning started with a few laughs, you're going to want to stick around for that. Before we get into all of that, though, we want to see who is in the audience with us. And it looks like we have Carmen Mitchell-Jones. Good morning to you, Carmen, and good morning to you, Taja. Everyone, as you are joining us this morning, do drop your good morning greetings to us because we would love to see who is watching us and give you a shout out. So our feel good warm up of the day. A few weeks ago, Jacky and I saw a post on social media. The person was dubbed the Dope Educator. I feel like that was his Instagram name or his social media handle. And previously we had another Dante Lavrock on the show who is also an educator. And so Jacky and I thought it would be important to reach out to some more Black men who are in our education system. And that's why we're going to be talking to Dante a little bit later on. But we do want to ask you a question about Black male teachers or administrators. Do you have a Black male teacher or an administrator that has had a positive impact on you as a student, or maybe not as a student, on your child? Because I know for some people, they may not have had interactions with a Black male teacher just because back in the day, I think most teachers were women, if I'm not mistaken. So that's what we want to talk about this one. And so audience, as you're joining us, go ahead and answer this question. Jacky and I will obviously give you our responses, and then we'll bring your comments in. I see we have a comment from Nachika Chat. Good morning, Ms. Chat. It said, Jack, male teachers or administrators that had a positive impact on you as a student. Do you have any? If so, who are they? What impact did they have on you?
You know what's funny? I have three. But only one of them, I can't remember his first name because I used to call him Robbie. So Mr. Robinson, our design and tech teacher at Berkeley.
Bakari.
Really?
Dark skin at Berkeley?
Yes. Yeah, kind of short.
Wait, not Bakari. His Bakari's brother.
Yeah,
I can't remember his.
Right.
I do remember his name though.
But he was my homeroom teacher and he was my design and tech teacher. That was my boy. And then it was Quincy Painter, the English teacher.
Painter.
That was what I was always in his class. And then Arnold Manders.
Of course. I knew it was going to be Manders. Absolutely.
Those are my boys in school. Mr. Tucker at Sands was a good teacher. I don't remember any Black males at Port Royal.
Interesting. That's very interesting. You would have went 3090s, so.
At the janitor.
Administrator. See, that's why I put administrator in that because I did it because I want to acknowledge that we may not have had that many teachers coming up through our entire tenure in our education. So I wanted to make sure we didn't leave anybody out. So it looks like Nachika Tra also had some male teachers and administrators, that impacted her. Robert Horton and Dr. Maxwell. Ms. Tra, let us know what is it about those two teachers that, impact or left an impact on you positively. I know for me, I definitely don't have as many as Jack. I feel like I only have one. Which is Winston Blake. He was the business teacher at Berkeley. And I think he was probably the only male teacher that I feel like, if like even now today, like I would hit him up, I'll talk to him about, how could I forget Mr. Simmons, Craig Simmons. He's the reason I got into economics, to be honest, to study that in college. So yeah, Winston Blake at Berkeley, Craig Simmons at the college. And I did not have a male teacher in primary school either. So I don't have anybody at the primary school level. But I feel like there's a shift in the education system. Like I feel like there's more male teachers today than there were when we were in school. Like I think, like I feel like there's either if there's not a balance, it's getting towards being a balance of like 50% female, 50% male, and I think it's great. What are your thoughts on it, Jack?
I love it, and it's because I go to these schools to teach tennis. A lot of them I've realized are the gym teachers or the house teachers, or they're in a role where they are able to interact with all the students or majority of the students. Gotcha. So it's not like they're just P1 teachers. So you come in and that is your representation, or that is your role model for 1 year, and then you move on and you just go back to that teacher and say, "Hey, Mr. Whatever, Wilson, Mr. Wilson, good Mr. Wilson." And that is your role model. You harass them for the rest of your years at that school. Yeah. But this way, if they're the gym teacher or the health teacher, or in a role where they can interact with all the students, even as a counselor, it's just better. It's better representation. Because if you have a lot of female teachers, but you don't have a lot of male teachers, and whether you're a young boy or a young girl, it's good to have that male energy and that male role model in your bubble.
Absolutely. And I say we have Sean Smith in here. Good morning to you, Sean Smith. And I see we have a new commenter. Whenever I see someone's name that I don't recognize, I call you a new commenter. Even if you watched us before, you're just new. So hi. So it looks like we have Donna Rose Cooper. She says, good morning. I had Stanfield Smith, a biology teacher at the Berkeley Institute, the Berkeley, in case you didn't know, as well as Robert Horton as an English teacher. So I've heard Mr. Horton's name a few times in the education conversation, but I feel like I need to do a little bit more research because I don't know who this person is. Like, I'm doing myself a disservice, apparently, because it's two people that said Robert Horton, and I'm like, okay, sort it out, Teresa, sort it out. So, Jack, when you did, because you just mentioned, you know, most male teachers tend to be the PE or the health teacher. I do feel like on the opposite side of that it would be nice to see more teachers have like just one class, so that they can get that experience and that it can look just as attractive to someone who wants to be an educator that isn't good at PE or that isn't athletic. Because I also feel like then it's like the flip side. Like if the only position for a male teacher is gym or health or being a counselor, then it's like, well, I'm an academic, or I'm really good at math, or I want to be a math teacher, computer science teacher, English teacher, or I want to have a homeroom, like you said, Robbie, here for you. Like that also kind of, I feel like that should also be talked about too. And I don't know if we talk about it as much, but I definitely feel like, that's why I want the 50%. I want 50-50 male, female teachers so that they can all be sprinkled in every year level, in every subject, so that we can have, like you said, good representation, because that's what it's nice. But
I don't know if it works like that. I don't know if the placement works like that. I think right now, because there is a shift in the education system, and obviously we can ask Danté more about that, but I don't know if it's a situation of we're putting you where we need you versus this is the strategy for the long haul. Right. Hopefully they could revamp it and they could put people in better positions based on what they went to school for, what their desire is, and what the children actually need.
Agreed.
Not what suits better and what's easier for the people that are in administration for the education system. Because I know sometimes they're just like, oh, here's a piece of paperwork.
Reenactments are the best.
My sister was trying to be in the school system, and she was at Elliott as a substitute teacher for a long time, and she was trying to get her certification, and to get the paperwork in, the process was a task. I remember we were in the pouring rain running back and forth in town trying to see why the office isn't open and how to get a hold of people and calling and emailing and Gosh, we was even looking for a fax machine just to try and get this paperwork in.
Not a fax machine. Listen, it looks like we have a new commenter as well, Denzel Amos. Hey, good morning.
Hey.
As you're joining us, do let us know if there was a Black male teacher or administrator that had a positive impact on you as a student, and let us know a little bit more about that. And we have a comment from Nachika Trot. She says, I would like the government to have a campaign with initiatives to attract more male teachers at the primary level. I couldn't agree more. And that's kind of what I was getting at when I was saying, like, not just the house or the gym teacher, because I feel like it definitely pigeonholes them, and it doesn't make in my opinion, it's my personal opinion, it doesn't make the occupation look as luxurious as an accountant, as a lawyer, as a doctor. And it's like, teachers are just as important. Like, the only way you get to be a lawyer or a doctor or an accountant is by having a teacher. So it's
absolutely.
like, we need these to be right on the same level. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. But before we do that, I have a few more comments that I want to get into. Because I got friend Nicholas is back. Good morning to you, Nicholas. And Denzel is saying his male teacher or administrator is Mr. Timothy Souza. So you got to let us know what school that's from, because I don't know that name. And I would be interested to know, because, as y'all are dropping these names, you're actually helping Jacky and I, because we would like to reach out to more male teachers. So thank you and your assistance with our research. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be right back to bring in our guest of the day, which is Danté Cooper. So you do not want to go anywhere.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. And if you're just joining us, our feel-good topic of the day is a Bermudian success story. Danté Cooper is backstage, and we're going to get ready to bring him to the forefront. But before I do that, I'm going to just give you a quick little biography of him. It's really, really short, so don't worry. Danté currently serves as the vice president of the Bermuda Union of Teachers, and he is an educator at Sands Middle School. I have a personal story about Danté. He and I served on TAB, and if you're not familiar with the Youth Library, TAB is their teen advisory board, and it brought students from all schools on the island at the middle school level, I think, or maybe we were in our early high school days. And we had so much fun on the teen advisory board, and I really think that not only having more males in our education system, but also in extracurricular activities like the library and other things are also just as important. So without further ado, I'm going to bring my friend Danté Cooper into the studio. Good morning, Danté.
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good.
We are well. How are you this morning?
Okay, thanks.
That is
adjusting
awesome.
the camera. Yeah.
Yeah, no problem.
I was like, that is not how I left you.
I was like, Jack is gonna be mad, but I couldn't see properly on the little screen.
You didn't see my face. I was just like,
I'm sorry.
Slight disappointment. We are well. For Danté, for those that don't know, what is the role of the vice president of the Bermuda Union of Teachers?
The vice president role is responsible for many things, really just filling in for the president and doing anything that the president asks. My current president takes advantage of that. She's like, Cooper, do this, Cooper, do that. But no, really, it's just assisting with general membership concerns, head of the conference. So this year we have our annual conference in October. So professional development, just touching base with our teachers and our members. So that's what I do as vice president.
Awesome.
so you you went to public school and then went to private school. So as somebody that has been in both private and public school for your local education, how come you chose to go public when it came to educating our youth?
It's a good question, but I chose to go public because I wanted to have more of an impact. I've always been, as Teresa told that story, I've always been a volunteer. I always volunteered in different initiatives. In high school, I was at the Red Cross, I was at the hospital, I was at Teen Advisory Board, I was doing beach cleanups, I was doing a lot of different things. My parents really instilled in me two very important things. It's important to give back and it's important to get your education. So that was the focus of me growing up. It was never a question whether or not I was going to college, maybe monetarily, financially, but I had to get my degree. I had to do to give back to the community because I was very fortunate as a child. So when picking between public and private, it was a no-brainer. I wanted to have an impact in the community, and personally, looking back on it, I did prefer my time in the public sector, having that relationship, and my parents having that relationship with all those teachers in the public school sector was very different when compared to private school.
That is so
I
interesting.
like that answer.
And before we move on, I just want to remind the audience, if you have any questions for Danté, if you want to celebrate him, do make sure you drop them in the comments, because we will bring them up and we will let him see that. So go ahead, Jack.
So throughout the years, my education, Terry's education, me going into the schools to teach tennis, I've seen a fluctuation of male teachers in the school system. Some people have had to come out of retirement. I know Nori Latham had to come out of retirement, and then Lugo. Aaron Lugo had to come out of retirement as well to help out with Victor Scott. But how important is it for our youth to have male role models in the educational system?
I think it's so important, because if we're honest and transparent with this conversation, we're going to be honest and say that a lot of our youth do not have a father figure in their household, in their immediate household. Some of them are not close with their father, or they just do not have anyone in their immediate family circle who is a father figure or a male figure. And so when we look at males in our system, they play a vital role. Unfortunately, it's not, as Terry said, it's not 50-50. I want to say my staff at SANS, if it was 50 or 60 teachers, maybe 10 of them are male. So we are getting a little bit better, but it's not as many as there needs to be. And as a commenter, said Nachika Trott, there needs to be some incentive to push to not only attract teachers, but also attract male teachers.
I love that answer. And so I actually have a comment from Sean Smith that I wanted to bring up. He said, we need more male teachers across all levels of education. He had less than 10 male teachers from preschool to high school. And when you think about the amount of years you span in school, only having 10 is kind of like, that really doesn't make sense. And just the interaction, right? Because sometimes you don't have like a male teacher as your teacher, but to see a male teacher at the school, I think it just does something. I really think it just does something.
Well,
so
we always talk about representation, right?
Representation is important, and it does do something. So in my role, so when I started in the system, I was a paraeducator at Delwood Middle School, working with Dion Green and Trina Davis-Williams in the autism class under the leadership of Tina Duke. And so in that role, which was similar to my previous roles, working as a behavior therapist, as a residential therapist for private clinics and different places, I was able to connect with and service special education students, right? But not only when you're in the classroom connecting and, servicing, teaching special education students, you're also trying to connect with their peers and other students in the year level to help them to see that just because students are different, or just because they have different capabilities or exceptionalities, that does not mean that they are you're not able to play with them, or they can't be a good friend just because they look different or because they act different. So in our role, when you're working with special education, it's so important to be mindful of how you treat others and how you interact with people, right? Specifically now in my role at SANS, because I work at SANS now, I used to work at SANS. You guys didn't actually know that. I did put in my resignation. Yesterday was officially my last day in the public school system. And we'll get into that a little bit later. But in that role at SANS, I was head of educational therapy. So I was responsible for budgeting, leading the therapy department under the umbrella of student services. And in that role, I had about 30 to 40 students on my caseload. And so those are the students that need a little bit of extra help, whether it's emotional difficulties, behavioral, social, and some of those special education students as well. So I was able to connect with and service a lot more students than being in a traditional classroom.
Talking on mute. I was gonna say that's a very interesting, and I think I had a learner support student in my class at Clearwater. It was only one student, and she did have like, her own special person. And I think as a student, you don't really understand the importance of that person having just an individual person to work with them, but you also do learn some empathy and some compassion. I mean, yes, some people are just rude, but you definitely do learn, like, that could have been you. And so you definitely have to not only be grateful, but to appreciate that teachers are having to take on a little bit more than just teaching. Like, they are having to be like a champion for someone who might not have a champion at home, and they're trying to do for them in the classroom. So we have a question from Sean Smith. He wants to know, what is the union doing to help to get more male teachers in the schools?
That's a good question, Mrs. Smith. Thank you for that. However, I don't necessarily think that that's under our remit to hire. We were not responsible for hiring teachers or attracting teachers to the system. That is under the remit of the Department of Education. However, if you do have any ideas or if you do believe that's an initiative that we should be having, definitely connect with me offline. I'm sure that you can find my information from Terri or Jacky.
Absolutely. And so we have this next question from Nachika Trott, fellow educator. She wants to know, what is the biggest challenge facing public education, and how would you address it?
Thanks, Nachika. Thanks for that question. I don't think that there's one individual challenge facing public school education. When we look at public school education, specifically looking public versus private, one of the challenges that we have is just how the system is set up. There's a lot of conversation around the fact that we are currently teaching a curriculum that should be started a year earlier. So we're playing catch up, right? It's a lot of conversations around the fact that that's been going on for decades, that teachers don't have enough resources, that we don't have a lot of those things that the private school system has and that we sometimes take for granted. Teachers do not, right? I mean, we've all heard these stories and we know the differences, the different things that how teachers put into our classrooms. They pay for different things, they buy different things for their classrooms, they buy different things for their students. And so when you look at the private school system, and teachers don't necessarily have to do that, it's easier, and you're more able to just teach the student, right? But one of the biggest things that I would say is politics that plays into education system. I feel like it's a political tool many times, and I feel that if we take that out of education, I think that was how we can make it better. Because a lot of things, we know what needs to be done. I sit across from the table from, the Department of Education, the Ministry of Education, and we have those discussions. We know how we currently operate is wrong. Okay, how are we going to address it, right? And we can't rely on, budgetary concerns. We can't rely on different things like that, because some of the things that we do in Bermuda is not only frowned upon, but in different jurisdictions, it is, it could be considered illegal, especially when you look at how we operate in the special education sector, how we operate, whether it comes to HR or the Ministry of Education. A lot of things, we do a lot of things wrong. And so one of my phrases that I always say with the Commissioner of Education or the department is that, what are we going to do to make our education system 21st century? What are we going to do to ensure that we are doing best practices? Because a lot of things that we do are not best practices. We are doing it because we've always done it, and that's the way that we've always done it, and that's just the way it is. And myself, being a new person, whether it's on the union side or the education side, coming into it, and how millennials are in general, we ask a lot of questions, right? And we're not going to do something, we say all the time, the math's not mathing. It's not making sense. Like, we're not going to do something if it doesn't make sense, and unfortunately, we got a lot of pushback on that. I've received a lot of slaps on the wrist because I'm not doing something just because it's always been done that way, right? I'm simply not. I'm doing what's best for my student. And so, unfortunately, not all teachers have the autonomy, or not all persons are able to act in that way and just do what's the best for your student, because you do get blackballed, right? You do get you do get slapped on the wrist, you do get written up, you do get moved, and so unfortunately, like, we take the politics, we take the person, we take all of that out of it. That's how we'll address the education system.
Sorry, I love that. All over the mulberry. That's fine. You're very passionate, and I think one of the things too that is why Jacky and I wanted to reach out to male teachers specifically on the start, was because to see the passion that you have, because oftentimes you do see the passion of the women, the teachers, and like, you know, trying to fight for their students, but very seldom do you get to see, or very seldom is it highlighted, that there are just as many Black male teachers just as passionate about their students and the work that they're doing. So I was like, well, he's gonna go, because we need everyone to hear this segment. So we do have another question for you from the audience. Nicholas Butterfield wants to know if you can share your thoughts on the school consolidation that will be taking place.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Right?
That is a nice way of putting it. My thoughts are, thanks, Nick. Another friend. No, but my thoughts on the consolidation is just whether or not it's going to happen. Unfortunately, we have a lot of things that come down the pipeline with education. We prepare for it, whether it's pedagogy, whether it's different modalities, whether it's different initiatives that come from the education system or from the top that we prepare for, and then it doesn't happen. And so that's why teachers get so frustrated, because when you look at the next few days, teachers are going to be in PD, right? Professional development. Whether or not that professional development is going to be relevant within 6 months, whether it's going to be relevant within a year, is to be seen, right? Because we change and we shift in a drop of a dime and we drop of a hat. So that's why teachers get frustrated that for the next few days they have to be in professional development, because in 3 months later we're going to be doing a different thing. So my thoughts on the consolidation is just whether or not it is going to happen. In theory, it makes sense. If there are less school buildings, more resources can be applied to that building. But when you look at staffing, when you look at student needs, when you look at ratios, when you look at how big that campus is going to become, there's a lot of research that says that, you know, there should be a cap. Smaller environments do better. So we're going to go from primary school, for example, having less than 100 students to some primary schools having 300 students. And necessarily, that's not necessarily a bad thing, because when we look at, you know, decades ago, some of our, you know, our parents, our grandparents, they went to school in buildings, you know, in school buildings that big. However, just when we look at now of the student needs, is that necessarily best practices for the 21st century?
Just so much information to take in as a non-educator, and I love it, because it's opening my eyes to like the things that are just not just the classroom. Like there are so many other things in the education system that we kind of take for granted because we're so focused on just the teachers teaching, but there's like so many other aspects to it. So we have another question from the audience. Our girlfriend Chica Trout wants to know, what are your career aspirations? Do you wish to run for BUT president, Bermuda Union of Teachers for those that don't know, or hold other positions in education, maybe CEO?
Thanks for that, Nachika. As she would know, I did touch on it a little bit earlier, I did resign from the system. I am no longer educational therapist at Sands Secondary and Middle School. I have been appointed General Secretary Designate of the Bermuda Union of Teachers, so I will be there in a part-time, full-time capacity. I'm also going back to school to get another master's in.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you for that. Yeah, so I'm doing a master's with the Industrial Labor Organization in industrial labor relations, right? So that's going to be, I'm really looking forward to that. It's a really competitive program. And so I was fortunate enough to get in. Career aspirations, to be honest, I want to serve, right? For the last several years, whether it's school or whether it's union, I'm an advocate, I'm a servant. I serve my students, I serve my teachers, my members. So career aspirations, it's wherever I can have the biggest impact, and just remember where I came from, because honestly, I think a big problem, not only in Bermuda, but around the world, is that we get to these positions and we don't remember what it was like to be a foot soldier, a person in the trenches, or what it was like to go through those paces, right? Wake up every day and go and do the work. So wherever I get, I'm just going to remember my humble beginnings, right? That's important.
I don't think your friends will let you forget the way that they're dropping these questions.
Right?
They came with the heat, and we are just sitting here like, okay, well, it's that type of interview today. All right, we're here for it, I guess. And so I love it too. We have another question. This one's from Denzel Amos. He wants to know, I guess, obviously you did say that you resigned, but what made you choose middle school, and would you ever try high schoolers if you did decide to go back into the classroom?
Okay. So I feel like middle school is an area or a period of time where parents kind of feel, well, the out of primary school, the in middle school, I can ease off a little bit. There's a little bit less structure at home because they're preteen now. So I feel that middle school is where we need the male educators, is where we need that that preteen age. Is where we need people because quite frankly, when we talk about behavior modification, if something gets to the high school level, they're pretty set in their ways, right? And so after primary school, middle school, in middle school, it's a bigger school. You're no longer in class with one teacher. You're rotating classes. You go from having maybe 1 to 5 teachers to having 12, 15 teachers. It's such an adjustment that is so it's not talked about enough, right? And then when you throw in puberty, you throw in liking girls, liking guys, when you throw in all of the different things that's happening, whether you come from a family that is really hands-on and they're there for every meeting and they show up, or you come from a family who maybe necessarily they can't make all of those meetings and they can show up, but that's where you need the person to advocate for you. That's where you need someone to be that safe space, that sounding board. So that's why I chose middle school. I have taught at the high school level when I was in London, and I did primary when I taught in Italy.
Interesting. So you've done it all. Look at you. Just well-rounded educator.
I also did a preschool summer camp, and I was just like, oh, this is for me. I did like nap time, though. I did like nap time for preschool, because that's when you're supposed to take your lunch break. I was napping with him. I was like, I need a nap. All this running around, I'm tired too. So if you need Cooper, I'm napping. I'm sleeping too. So, but, yeah.
I love it.
Now, I only have time for one question, but I have two, so I'm going to squeeze them in together. And they don't really go together, but they're going to go together today. One, what is your ideal size for classrooms? Because you said we're talking about consolidating all these schools together and the different sizes of classrooms. What is an ideal size classroom for teachers? And also, I'm on social media, so I see the flack and I see the amount of pressure put on teachers. How do we support teachers to make sure that our youth are also supported? Because, of course, you have to support one to support the other. It's a circle of life.
Okay. Ideal classroom size would probably be between 10 to 15, 10 to 18. And I give that to that 18, maybe that 15, because you can have a larger classroom. It depends on who's in the class, right? And there's different individual needs. So if you have a classroom of 18 or 20 students, but 6 of them are IEPs, 3 of them are in city and guilds, or they are doing a higher level, it's harder to differentiate between those different students that are in your classroom, right? However, teachers do that every day. And so that's one of the things that, I don't think the general public understands, is that when you have a classroom, whether it's of 5 students all the way up to, because there are some classrooms that have 24, there are some classrooms that have 26, a little bit bigger, but what they don't understand is that not every child is the same, right? And so when you're able to screen your children, or when you are able to place them based on their academic ability, like the private schools, you are able to teach all at one level. When you get into education in the public school system and everyone's at a different level, you can have someone sitting next to each other. Middle school, that person's at grade 2, that person's at grade 4, that person's actually should probably be in S1, but most of these people are P6, maybe some are M2, so teachers have to differentiate. Your second question, supporting teachers. Supporting teachers is as simple as supporting teachers. Stop attacking us, right? Stop attacking our teachers. Stop. We see your comments on social media. We see your we see all, right? And it really is deflating, because a lot of times, not a lot of times, but every time, whether we are, and it's very rare, whether we're striking, whether we're taking some form of industrial action, whether communications are broke down between the ministry and the department, it's always for our students, right? We're not out there striking for pay, even though we haven't had a pay raise in 15 years. We're not out there striking for resources, even though our classrooms are never fully equipped when school comes around. We're not out there striking because the classrooms aren't clean. Today is September 1st. Teachers have 2 days to set up their classroom between professional development. 2 days. I guarantee you there are several teachers in several school buildings that have walked into their classroom and their classroom's currently being, it's a construction site, or their classrooms haven't been cleaned before summer. Their classrooms don't have any chairs because the chairs were moved to the assembly, or who has to move their chairs back? That teacher, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a lot of things that when we finally do come out and we finally do ask for public support, it's always for the students. Things that happened, I believe it was 2020, where a couple schools set out and let's be clear, those teachers sat out on their lunch break, right? They met on their lunch break, and the reason they met on their lunch break is because their students, their services weren't being met. They were understaffed. There were some instances of students, we just spoke about classroom size, of students having to be separated, right? Because sometimes there's a provision that says in P3 you can have 2 classes, and in P4 if you are short a teacher or you want to turn it into one stream, you can combine the classes up to as long as the size is under 25. However, that's not best practices. Although that's how it's always been done, what's best for that particular age group? What's best for that site, right? And so supporting our teachers goes more than just saying good job. It's understanding what we go through, and it's not attacking us online when we are always trying to do what's best for our students.
Absolutely.
I really love it. And so that was actually basically going to be my next question anyway. So I think that's a great place for us to wrap it up. And I actually want to bring this comment from Dan. So he says, thank you for your awesome answers. And not only am I going to reiterate that, I want the audience to know that we will definitely be sharing ways that you can contact Danté. We're obviously going to have to get his new email address because it's going to be in a new reel soon. So we're going to give you the new email address. If you do want to continue the conversation with Danté, do make sure you let us know. And we do have 2 other questions, Danté, that I'll send to you. And if you can maybe send back your answers to us and we'll get them to the audience, because I definitely feel like we're going to make this a thing too. We're definitely going to have more educators on, because the more of you that are talking about this, I feel like, the better it's going to be for all of us. So this one last comment. Great job, Danté. And we have this as well. Proud of you.
I'm guessing on behalf of all of us.
They are. And then Erica's saying, so proud of you, Anthony Earlston. I'm guessing
I don't know who that is. I don't know.
So audience, we're gonna thank you so much, Danté. Audience, we're gonna take a quick commercial break and then we'll be right back with Jacky's joke time.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pete's House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. And before we get into our Feel Good Vibe of the Day, we do want to remind you, if you're watching us over there on Facebook and you haven't given us a reaction to this episode, make sure you do that right now. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button. And to all of our tweets on Twitter, make sure you run up those hearts. Let us know in the comment one thing that you loved about today's episode with Danté Cooper of the Bermuda Union of Teachers. Luckily, he'll still be there. He'll just be in a new role soon. Let us know your key takeaways. What were your thoughts on it? Before Jackie and I are actually not going to do that for you today. We're going to do that for you tomorrow, because I want to get to these jokes, and I really feel like the jokes are really what's going to sell it. Really going to sell this episode. So Jack, over to you.
What do you call a man that just finished digging?
What, a man that just finished digging? I don't know.
Doug.
You remember this show, the cartoon, Doug?
Yes. Oh my God.
I love it. A gold digger. I love this one though. A gold digger.
That's cute. Oh, what do you call a typo on a headstone?
A typo on a headstone? It's definitely a mistake, but like I feel like I don't know.
A grave mistake.
I knew it was gonna be something about a mistake. One more. I think I'm gonna get the next one.
What is a foot long and slippery?
What's a foot long and slippery? A sandwich.
A slipper.
I definitely love that one. Mr. loves them as well. As always, we hope that today's Feel Good Vibe of the Day has you ready to make it a great one. Thank you for watching this episode of Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert, and we trust we'll see you again tomorrow for another Feel Good conversation where Jackie and I will be discussing creating your Hurricane Essentials kit. So if you haven't gotten that started and you're not sure what to put in your survival kit, we got you back. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.